Madam?
Yes, sir. Outlines PPT is there. Visible. It is visible, sir.
So this is the outline of my presentation. Scenario of Indian grid, various definitions of smart grid, evolution and basic concept of smart grid technology concept, conventional networks versus smart grid, WAMs, advanced metering infrastructures, security challenges to smart grid. So challenges faced by power systems. The very important challenge is the ever increasing demand. So in that case, you need to connect more and more devices. You have to increase the installed generating capacity, transmission capacity also. And what will happen that the system will become more and more complex. It will become more and more difficult to control, more and more difficult to operate. At the same time, the due to the various integration of various resources, the demand location also changes nowadays. Earlier that was not the case, but nowadays it happens. The networks are aging and all components also. Components means transmission lines, transformers, the reactors, the circuit breakers, and all are aging. So that is another challenge the power system are facing. In India only we know that now there is only one grid, all India grid. So we can understand that the complexity is at the highest level. It becomes very complex to operate such big grid. The various aspects have led the integration of large number of distributed energy resources very much required in the present day. So these DERs are integrating at different locations, including the major difficulty is that these DERs are integrated at the points where the grid is weak. I mean at the remote locations. So that is the major challenge as far as integration of DER is concerned. That if you connect a DER at the point where the grid is weak, at such DER, the pressure on from the all over world on the power systems is to reduce the carbon emission. Another challenge is since last around 15 to 20 years, it has been observed that the non-linear loads are increasing in number as well as in amount also, which the power which is drawn by them. One example is electric vehicles. Very recently, this kind of load has been introduced, and it is posing challenges to the power systems. So this is the background, how our systems are operating, what kind of challenges it is facing. From the MNRE website, very latest figure of install capacity is obtained here. Especially we can focus on western region. I hope my cursor is visible to you. The state sector is around 31 gigawatt in western region where Gujarat is there. The central sector is around 28 gigawatts. right? So roughly it becomes around 58 gigawatts. But you can see that in western region only the private sector participation in 67. So that private sector participation is very high in case of western region, and you can note here it is highest among all region of the India. We know that the industrial growth is highest in western region, so it is very much logical also to see this, right? The total installed capacity of western region is around 126 gigawatts, right? And then the around 383 gigawatts, 383 gigawatts. Now it is almost around 400 gigawatt system size. Please note that this much amount of installed capacity is connected in one grid, right? Out of these 383 gigawatts, you can see that almost half, 182 gigawatt is from the private sector participation. We can say that the MNRE has done huge steps in last decade to increase the generation. So there is a trend that the increase in government sector power installed capacity is not really that much high compared to that of private sector. Compare the private sector participation 2 gigawatt installed capacity as on the 31st May 2021, just 1 month ago, right? And the state sector is around 200 gigawatt. Earlier that was not the case. Earlier the installed capacity was dominated by the state plus central sector only, but now the things have changed. The renewable energy sources penetration is about 25%. So that is also one very encouraging factor in the Indian grid in this scenario. And it is likely to increase day by day in terms of percentage. Very soon, maybe after 5 years only, we can see that it will reach up to 30 to 35%. But the point is that renewable energy sources, when the penetration increases, it poses many technical and economical challenges in the grid operation. So that is the main point as far as the today's my presentation is concerned, that RES is percentage is going to increase. So we need to be prepared in advance. Let us see the renewable sources. You can see here, out of the total around 96 gigawatts, the solar plus wind is around 80.5 gigawatts. So that is dominating.
Sir, your voice
is going
is
to increase
breaking,
from,
sir.
Okay, let me start my internet of my own mobile. We can try. Slide is visible, madam?
Yes, sir.
And voice?
Now it is clear. Previously it was breaking in between.
Okay. Thank you, madam. Now, one typicality of the wind generation is the variability and the intermittency. This plot is also obtained from MNRE only. The blue dark portion shows that it is the generation of one wind turbine, right? You can see very easily that the variation in the wind power supplied by that one wind power is quite high, right? Over a period of 24 hours. But when we take 100 wind turbines aggregate, you can see that variation is not really very much for the same period. The point is that variability of wind power over large geographical area where many wind turbines are connected to grid reduces significantly. We can very easily compare the variability of one wind turbine and many wind turbines, right? So it helps in predicting the power which can be generated by wind turbines and control also, right? Operation of wind turbines becomes easier if we think over large geographical area. So variability is a problem, but then if there are many wind turbines, then problem becomes easier. Similarly, here for the solar generation, one PV plant is shown by the blue line, right? Left vertical axis shows that data, and the brown line is for the aggregate 18 such PV plants. So you can see that variation.
Hello, sir.
Right?
I think the slide is different, sir.
Yes, sir. The slide is of renewable source installed capacity.
Yes, sir. Actually, the slide is different.
Yes.
The literature you are talking about is different. What the slide is showing, sir.
Correct. I can also read it. I was about to tell that the content which is written is for the wind turbine.
No, sir.
Correct. No, sir.
Slide is not changing. Here it indicates renewable source installed capacities slide. Is it the same, sir?
No, sir. You are sorry, sir. Sorry to interrupt you, but the thing is, the literature you are talking about, like blue line, this line, it is not showing in this slide. That's why I mean, we think that there is some internet problem or technical issues.
Is it visible now?
No, sir. I think you
no,
have to share it again. The same presentation.
So stop.
Sir, that is the reason it's not changing. Sir, please share it again.
I think laptop is hanged.
Okay, no issue, sir. We will wait for 5 minutes. You just shut it down and reconnect, sir. No issue.
1 minute, huh? बाद में. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir. Now it is visible.
Should I talk about this slide? The colors are visible clearly?
Yes, right now it is visible. Right now it is visible.
Shall I explain this again?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay, fine. Thank you. So this is taken from MNRE website. The blue portions which is shaded shows the wind turbine power output of one wind turbine, right? So you can very easily say that the variability is quite high, right? Whereas if the wind turbine, there are 100 wind turbines, So over large geographical area, let's say there are 100 wind turbines, whichever they have considered. The variability is now shown by the green line on top of the blue shaded line. The axis to be referred is on the right hand side, which is in the megawatt. And for one wind turbine, the axis, vertical axis to be referred is the on the left hand side, which is in kilowatt, right? So the point is that the wind power supplied by the wind turbine to the grid has a problem of variability, but then the problem is if there are more turbines connected, right? So it is not that serious. That's the point. It becomes easy to operate such wind farms. Here the variability of the solar panels is also shown here. The blue line is of one PV plant and the brown line is for 18 such PV plant, right? So you can see that vertical axis on left and right. So you can compare that although they are in megawatts, but then the nature of variation tells us that if more solar plants over large geographical area are considered together, then the variability is there, but not as significant as that of one PV plant, right? Now, as far as the Indian context is concerned, and there are three main aspects for which we can say there is a need of the smart grid. As far as economics is concerned, cost saving from peak load reduction, reduced operational and maintenance cost, reduced industrial consumer cost. So these are the three main factors in which smart grid can help in improving economics of operation of grids. As far as services are concerned, we can have following advantage of smart grids: improved reliability, power quality, reduction in aggregate technical and commercial losses, efficient power delivery, improved grid security, demand side management, and demand response. As far as environmental aspects are concerned, 1 minute. The reduction in CO2 emission and greenhouse effect can be reduced if we operate, if we employ smart grid and operate nicely. Increase the penetration of clean energy with renewables, consumer participation, energy conservation. So these are the aspects in different way which can be obtained if there is smart grid is employed. Yeah. So let us look the requirement of the smart grid from the generation point of view. We all know that the load on the grid cannot be controlled, right? It is in the hand of consumers. So in order to have the frequency control, only generation can be controlled. Maybe I should mention here that the recent electricity code has specified in India that the variation of the frequency shall be in the band of 0.5 Hertz. We can say that it is very strict specification, very strict for a large size grid of ranging around 350 gigawatts. Grid is so large, and to maintain the frequency in such a stringent band is really mammoth task, very, very difficult. So wind and solar generation shall not be controlled. We should not say that you reduce the generation of wind in order to control the frequency or solar generation, right? And we have seen in previous two slides that variability is there, right? With the increased penetration of this RES, the control of generation will be more difficult and complex because of the variability and locations and the amount. Because this RES generation may be in the distribution grid, distribution network, right? Traditionally, what has happened that the generation control is done in order to control the frequency, but these generators are connected in EHV network, right? The energy management centers control the generation. They have their own way of controlling the generation. AGC is employed, and there are other ways also. Now, in this context, the storage of energy can help, like supersized capacitors, batteries, EV, then pumped storage, etc. These are the options. Along with these options, the demand shifting to the extent possible is also another option. Now, these all options are helpful in controlling frequency as well as peak shaving. That is another very important aspect. The conventional sources like coal, etc., coal, gas, etc., can be controlled in order to control the frequency. Even water also, water turbines, hydro power plants. The energy input to wind and solar plants are variable, right? We cannot control it. We should not allow the reduction of energy supplied by wind power plants and solar power plants. So that poses technical challenge for integration of these DERs into the grid. Now let's turn our attention to the various efforts made by various researchers and agencies in order to define the smart grid. So many have given definitions. We'll see few. There are two different approaches. One is the identifying the advantages offered by grid, that what solution it is giving to the grid, to the different problems. Then another approach is to what component the grid is consisted of. So there are two different perspectives. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Thank you. Thank you. Department of Energy in US in 2003, they have defined grid like this. That it is a fully automated power delivery network that monitors and controls every customer and node, ensuring two-way flow of electricity and information between the power plant and the appliance and all points in between. Its distributed intelligence coupled with broadband communications and automated control systems enables real-time market transactions and seamless plants generate. So controlling every consumer and node. So that is at the lower voltage level. So the smart grid covers the distribution voltage level also. That's the point. We'll see more definitions. The European Technology Platform has defined grid like smart grid as it is an electricity network that can intelligently integrate the actions of all users connected to it, which users, generators, consumers, and those they do both, means generation as well as consumer consumption of power both, in order to efficiently deliver sustainable economic and secure electricity supplies. IC Development Organization has defined like this. It is an integrating the electrical and information technologies in between any point of generation and any point of consumption. IIT Engineering and Technology, one article was published which has mentioned a smart grid is an electricity network that uses digital and other advanced technologies to monitor and manage the transport of electricity from all generation sources to meet the varying electricity demands of end users. Smart grids coordinate the needs and capabilities of all generators, grid operators, end users, and electricity market stakeholders to operate all parts of the system as efficiently as possible, minimizing cost and environmental impacts while maximizing system reliability, resilience, and stability. You can see here that this definition covers many aspects and expectations of the smart grid. Another definition, small and brief, is electrical grid that uses computer-based remote control and automation to deliver electrical power to customers. Here, the specification and expectations are not mentioned. How it can achieve, that is mentioned. Only that much is mentioned. Another definition is the smart grid is an electrical network that uses digital and other technologies such as cyber secure communication technologies. So here one aspect is added in this definition is cyber secure communication. Automated and computer control systems in an integrated fashion to be able to monitor intelligently and securely manage the transport of electricity from all generation sources, both traditional and renewable, to economically meet the varying electricity demands of consumers. I'll just keep the other definitions. As far as the characteristics of smart grid are concerned, I have listed 7 such characteristics of smart grid, but these characteristics are based on the functionality approach. There can be other approach also to specify the characteristics of the smart grid, but from the functionality approach point of view, number 1 is optimized asset utilization and operating efficiency. We all know that the operating efficiency is a big concern in present day operation of power system, which includes the distribution networks. The assets like feeders, transformers, and so on, so their utilization has to be optimized, because everything boils down to cost in case of operation, then installation cost, and so on. So one characteristic of the smart grid is to optimize this and increase the operating efficiency. The second one is accommodate all generation and storage options. In present day traditional networks, that may not be the case, right? So if there is a smart grid, then there is possibility of accommodating all such sources and storage options and operate them. The third one is provide power quality for the range of needs in a digital economy. The power quality expectations are increasing day by day. Since last 20 to 25 years, such loads have been connected to the grid, which are responsible for the poor power quality at the consumer's point. So it is expected from the smart grid that it should provide better power quality, right? The fourth one is anticipate and respond to system disturbances in a self-healing manner. So I would say that condition monitoring, many of you are familiar with that. So with the help of smart grid, we can anticipate system disturbance. Like for example, if there is a transformer in distribution network and temperature is increasing, oil temperature, let's say for example. So over a period of time, if that parameter is observed, monitored, then we can anticipate that yes, there is some problem in that transformer, and we can take decision before actual some fault occurs within the transformers and so on. And self-healing means if there is a faulty part in a distribution network or transmission network, it should separate from the grid, and the supply to the consumers should be restored. So that does not mean that there is a fault and smart grid will take actions in such a way that the fault is removed from the transformer or a feeder and it is self-healed. No, that is not the point. Fifth one is operate resiliently against physical and cyber attacks and natural disasters. So this is very, very important aspect. Recently, Gujarat have experienced such huge loss in the distribution network, especially in Saurashtra region, right? So smart grid should operate in such a way that help in such a way that this kind of natural disasters, when it occurs, the system should operate resiliently as much as possible. The sixth one is enable active participation by consumers. The seventh one is enable new products, services and markets. Whenever such deployment of technology is there, the new ideas come for the new products and so on, right? So it is the characteristic of a smart grid that it will enable new products, like for example, smart meter, right? So due to the deployment of smart grid, that has been that has happened, right? So that is a new product which was not used earlier. Let us discuss about evolution and basic concept of smart grid technology. The evolution of grid is in process since inception of the grid, right? Over many decades, advancements are made in automation, protection, control, power dispatch and communication in transmission network. Initially, automatic generation control was in place for generation control in primitive fashion in early stages. Then during 70s and 80s, SCADA was expanded in these 2 decades, and the role of SCADA was almost limited to state estimation and monitoring only. There were many limitations of SCADA, but then that technology was employed, right? We all know that the power system is the largest man-made and complex system, most complex system, right? So whenever some new technology is there, it will be used in power systems. With this SCADA, monitoring of EHV network was done. So my point here is that distribution networks were not monitored with the SCADA in 70s and 80s. Few distribution stations were covered which were very important and strategic locations. With the improvements in communication system, such systems have grown up too. I mean, SCADA have grown up. The RTU, remote terminal units, were employed for data collection and transmission. Now PMUs, phasor measurement units, are replacing very fast these all RTUs almost everywhere in the system. It is in process. Traditionally, distribution networks are controlled manually, like operation of switch gears and so on, circuit breakers and so on. Now they are also covered by employing intelligence primarily for improving voltage profile and quick isolation of the faulty section. So I would say that automation, distribution automation has been employed since long, maybe after around last 10 or 15 years, this is in place. The support of communication system have been phenomenal. In addition, the better computing powers have also helped a lot. Hello? Any question? Okay. Few motives I would like to mention here. Aging of conventional electrical networks coupled with the emergence of new applications like electric vehicles. The political and environmental factors, the liberalization of electricity market. It is expected that as a result of liberalization, there will be war of the price, like which has happened in the mobile and so on. So it is expected that consumers will be in advantage. Motivation and inclusion of customers as players to support the grid. So the customers who are drawing power will try to supply the power and will support the grid, right? So till now, whatever we have discussed, I would say that let us go down to the fundamentals. What exactly is about smart grid, right? So bidirectional data flow is the main characteristic of smart grids, which was not the case in traditional grid. Now, the following questions, if they are addressed properly, I would say that we have designed and planned our smart grid well. So what are these questions? Which data is required to be captured? How to capture the data? How to communicate the data? How to store the data? Where to store the data? Which data to be stored for how much time? Because see, if there are sensors in our grid up to the distribution network level, right, starting from the generation plant to the distribution network, all nodes, in that case huge data will be created. So we need to define and find a way, plan that where to store the data, how much data is to be stored, which applications are to be used to process the data. Obviously data is there, but then that this data is to be required to be supplied to what applications, for what purpose, right? So applications are to be decided or developed. I would say this is the place where there is a scope of research for the faculty or academia. Which are the standards to be followed in order to make the grid the smarter one? So these all questions are very, very important, which we need to focus on, right? When you sit to understand the smart grid and plan the smart grid, right? Even if you want to do the research, you can focus on these kind of questions so that you can get some lead out of this answer of these questions. The smart grid concept is widely perceived as way forward to solve problems related to growing. Now these are the list of problems: growing energy consumption, integration of DER, energy efficiency, power supply reliability, and power quality. The smart grid is about making the whole grid smarter with the state-of-the-art technologies, which includes smarter generation, smarter DER integration, smarter transmission, smarter distribution. As far as generation is concerned, microgrids and DER are there. As far as transmission is concerned, the wide area measurement system is already taking place in almost all parts of the world. And it is making the transmission more and more smarter day by day. So synchrophasers using PMUs. So these are the tools for making the transmission smarter one. The smarter distribution is covered by AMI, Advanced Metering Infrastructure, condition monitoring, distribution station automation, and so on. The smart grid, as I have told you earlier also, it involves two-way communication, unlike this one-way communication in the traditional grid. The deployment of various applications, processing of huge data format and control purpose at EMS. So it is a complete package of whatever I have mentioned earlier in this slide. If we talk more on smart grid, it facilitates efficient and reliable end-to-end intelligent two-way delivery system from source to sink, as well as integration of RES. It will be able to coordinate the needs and capabilities of distribution utilities and users and ETC market stakeholders in such a way that it can optimize asset utilization, resource optimization, control and operation. reduction in losses, performance improvement. Smart grid encompasses integration of power, communication, intelligent devices, intelligent computing system for improved electrical infrastructure that serves consumer with reliability, quality, and affordable price. So these are all expected from the smart grid. It helps both utility and consumers to participate in the management of electricity sector, including efficient utilization of assets, bringing efficiency and sustainability. If we think in terms of components, what it is comprised of, smart grid is comprised of, then these are the 5 different category of components which are required to be there in a smart grid. First is the new and advanced grid components, smart devices and smart metering, integrated communication technologies, advanced control systems, programs for decision support and human interfaces. So these are the components. Let's talk on one of them. New and advanced grid components. Advanced conductors, superconductors, improved electric storage components, new materials, advanced power electronics, distributed energy sources. These are the new and advanced grid components. This all would improve the efficiency of energy supply, increase the reliability and availability of power. The second category, smart devices and smart metering. They are the sensors and sensor networks. Sensors may be fitted at transformers, substations, and consumer homes. They are helpful in remote monitoring and real-time pricing. Sensor along with its network can monitor the functioning and health of the grid devices, all kind of grid devices, monitor temperature, detect outages and power quality disturbances. Control centers are capable of receiving the accurate information about the actual grid condition, which was not the case in traditional grid in absence of this smart devices, smart metering. So now the officials, technocrats who are sitting in control centers and responsible for taking the major decisions, important decisions, have the tools of the data and accurate information. Condition monitoring of assets is also possible with the help of these smart devices. We'll talk more on smart transmission later. But presently, we will discuss on smart distribution. So these are the aspects related to the smart distribution: advanced metering infrastructure, outage management system, peak load management, power quality management, electric vehicles. Outage management system means in distribution system, many a times the outage occurs, no supply, right? So in that case, how to make sure these continuous supply to the consumers, that calls as an outage management system. Once the outage occurs, what actions are to be taken so that minimum loss of supply is subjected to the consumers. Peak load management and electric vehicles. So this all covers under the smart distribution. Just as a kind of block diagram, this is taken from Power Grid website. So the components and how the smart grid looks like, this pictorial view is given here. In the center, it is smart control center. The various systems, subsystems which are connected are the educational buildings where e-education is written here. Smart transports means charging of electric vehicles. You can see that solar panels are connected on the roof of mall. E-distribution to the residential complexes. E-governance means the municipal corporation is shown there, and e-governance is also connected to the smart control center in some way. So the information is shared between the municipal corporation, the smart control center. Smart buildings are there which are energy efficient, and in the load which are connected in smart building are also smarter. They also communicate with the smart control center. Hospitals, it is shown here. Microgrid is also shown here. The small, they inject the power, like wind farm is shown, wind turbines are shown here. So they inject power into the grid and so on. This is how a kind of representation of smart grid, right? What can be the component, how they will be interacting with each other and so on. Few points which I would like to mention here, that power distribution systems are incurring very high AT&C losses, aggregate technical and commercial losses. That is around 27%, which is very, very high. So it is expected smart grid will bring down this 27% to a lower value. Lack of consumer participation in energy management. If smart devices are connected at the consumer location, then consumer can also participate in energy management, right? With the data available from the consumer location. Poor power quality is characteristic of our traditional network. Even present day it is there. No demand side management and demand response is not there in present scenario. Lack of consumption discipline. I would say that during the peak hours, peak load hours, if you are using your washing machine, for example, for washing the clothes and so on, so that is a case where the consumption discipline is not there, right? So present scenario, that is the case. Critical financial position of DISCOMs. All DISCOMs are making losses in terms of crores of rupees. So their financial condition is very bad. Low penetration of renewable energy. So it is very much required requirement of the present day that penetration should be more and more increase in terms of percentage of penetration. The greenhouse gas emission is increasing and ever increasing. So that is the present scenario or the problems which are there in our system. Now let's talk about the salient features of AMI, Advanced Metering Infrastructure. It consists of smart meters, data concentrator units, in-home display unit. Consumer also requires display, right? Communication network. There can be many technology of communication which can be used, but there has to be communication network, right? Meter data acquisition system similar to the SCADA, right? Meter data management integrated on a single platform. So this is the platform where all data will be received from meter data acquisition system, right? And that will, the data received at the MDM will be processed, and whatever is the result or the decisions which will be communicated to the concerned agency, maybe consumer, maybe the operator, maybe the generators and so on. Synchro phases are really not new, but then in the present context, I would say it is state of the art technology which shall be employed as a part of smart grid initiative. Power system measured states. So which are the states? Voltage, current and angle, and not estimates. So those who know state estimation little bit, they know that with the traditional SCADA system, the measurements which are given by SCADA and fed to the control center, the state estimation program calculates the estimate, not the states. But PMU have the capability to measure the states, which is very accurate compared to that of the traditional state estimation, which employs the measurement from SCADA. These measured states will be at the rate of 20 to 40 milliseconds. So this rate is very high compared to that of the state estimation using the SCADA measurements. Dynamic system conditions via high resolution data is provided by PMUs. So that is 25 to 50 samples per second. It's quite high. Ability to compare due to time synchronized and sampled data. Compare means the voltage phases and current phases measure across the network. Let's say, for example, across a line, say there are two voltages. So because they are time synchronized and stamped data, you can compare the voltages of the two ends of a line. For example, for simplicity, I am saying. And we can compare angle also. That is the real strength of the wide area measurement systems, that it can measure the angle difference across a line or a corridor. That is a real strength. That is a major advantage of PMUs and wide area measurement system. WAMs with high bandwidth communication, that is a technology which is employed in present day. High resolution time synchronized data useful for calculation and monitoring of following parameters: percentage damping, inter area and local area oscillations, which were not possible in the previous case where the measurements from SCADA were used. Measured sensitivities such as delta V by delta P, delta by delta P. So that is possible to measure using WAMs and PMUs. Angle difference between the buses. So typically the angle difference across a line or a corridor gives you or the power system operators the idea or indication about the loading of the line, right? So that is very, very important, which is possible with only PMUs. Transmission loadability we can know from the measurements of PMUs. Let's talk about PMU placements. All 400 kV and above in state and central grids and IPPs, independent power producers. Generating stations at 220 kV and above, HVDC terminals and important inter-regional and international tie lines. Both ends of 400 kV and above, terminal lines of state, ISTS, interstate lines, grids and IPPs. So these are the locations, nodes where PMU placement is supposed to be there, and almost in India now it is a good state that the deployment of PMU is done at many buses. Almost the which are mentioned in these 4 points are almost covered now. What are the benefits? Reduction in AT&C losses, reduction in CO2 emission, enabling energy audit, reduction in cost of billing, remote load control, shifting of peak requirement to non-peak time, that is peak shaving, facilitate integration of large-scale renewable generation towards clean energy development. So these are the possible benefits. One important point I would like to make here is that this sector-wise consumption of electricity. So domestic and commercial makes together around 35% of the total consumption of the grid, right? So energy efficiency in household consumption and commercial building can be brought revolutionary change in sector, right? For example, efficient use of household appliances reduces peak demand by 1.2 to 2.5 kV per household. That is huge number. right? So if the smart meters are employed at the consumer's level, this kind of idea we can have, and we can bring efficiency. If we talk about the conventional networks, the power flow of the electricity flow is unidirectional from generating plants to transmission system to distribution network and to loads. Madam, how much time do I have? Urvi ma'am?
Sir.
Urvi ma'am, how much time do I have?
Till 12 o'clock.
Okay, fine. Characteristics of conventional networks: vertical structure, power flow is unidirectional, and this is particularly true for distribution networks. The price of electricity is dictated by the utility to which consumer is connected. Consumers have no choice of opting from where they buy their power, their electricity. In case of smart grid, these options can be made available to the consumers. Now, if we compare traditional grids and future grid, a few points I would like to mention here. The generation follows load in traditional grid. The operation is based on historical experience. The limited grid activity for new producers. You can see here that the power flow is from right to left, unidirectional. In the figure in the right hand side for the future grid or smart grid, it is mentioned that power flow is in different directions. So the distributed power generation is there, centralized as well as distribution. So the power is fed into the grid at different points. That is a distributed power generation. Intermittent renewable power generation, consumers become also producers. Like present day solar rooftop systems are there. Multi-directional power flow, load adapted to production. In previous case, traditional grid, generation follows load. Now, in the smart grid, load is adapted to production of the generation power. Operation is based more on real-time data, unlike the traditional grid. Active distribution. The share of electricity generated in distribution will increase. DN will become active rather than passive. They will be subjected to bidirectional power flow. Interaction of network operations and market activities will be necessary to optimize distribution network enhancement. Communication network has to penetrate up to the level of consumer voltage level, distribution voltage level. This has posed technical problems. Let's now talk about how to make transmission system smarter. The wide area measurement system. Here unsynchronized measurements are shown. The magnitude of two phasors can be determined using this SCADA, where unsynchronized measurements are there across the location 1 and location 2. In case of PMU, which gives you synchronized measurements, you can see the two vertical lines. So that shows the time reference, right? And because of the accurate time reference, phase angle difference can also be measured using the PMU across the two locations, right? So these are the waveform of voltage at location 1 and location 2. Synchronizing pulses obtained from the GPS satellites is used for obtaining synchronized measurements. I will skip few slides here. What are the WAMS component? Time synchronizing signal from GPS, communication channels. It is the backbone of any WAMS. That is the main component of WAMS. The grid is there, but then without communication channel, WAMS is not in existence. Transducers for measurements like CTs, PTs, and CVDs at the different substations, EHV substations. PMU is another component. PDC, phasor data concentrators at the energy management center. In most cases, WAMS grows gradually over a period of time, maybe It may take 10 years or something like that, as it has been the case in Western region and in particular India also. The cost depends on the application. What application of VAMS is envisaged at the time of planning. This is the block diagram of PMU. PMUs are connected at different location. Let's figure here, PMU will measure the voltage of this bus and the currents of all the lines connected to this bus, frequency, rate of change of frequency, and so on. So the satellite is giving time synchronizing pulses to all PMUs. PMU transmit data and communicate with the state load dispatch center, right? So this is the block diagram. Within the PMU, this is a block diagram of PMU, right? From the GPS receiver antenna for the time synchronizing pulse, GPS receiver is there, PLL is there, A to D converter is there. So this is the analog input from CT and PT. It is required to be filtered for anti-aliasing. Some other frequency components can be there if we use this kind of technology. Then the analog signal is converted to digital, and phasor microprocessor calculates the phasor, and then that calculated phasor goes to a communication port for transmitting it to the energy management system. Broad area of applications of VAMS: monitoring, which helps in visualization of the system, emergency control, control of AVR, PSS, FETs, etc., protection, post-mortem analysis, like one very famous example of 2003 blackout in August in US. So the post-mortem analysis was carried out, and it was found that if there were a system like VAMS, it would have helped a lot. For the model validation, many times for the research purpose, analysis purpose, and development purpose, the accurate models of different component of power systems is required. The VAMS can give you, the PMU data can give you the accurate system model or all the components of the system. What are the motivations? Transmission capacity enhancement, online monitoring system stability margin capabilities, operator confidence at the energy management center, advanced protection scheme, possibility of coordinated control of different devices, rapid state estimation compared to the SCADA, better understanding of dynamic behavioral system, quick and accurate post-mortem analysis of disturbance, real-time voltage stability assessment possible, planning is also possible. Better planning can be done with the help of data and the information received from the VAMS. This is the IEEE standard 1344 1995 that is used for the synchro phasor measurement. Now it was updated to C37.118. Anyone can refer from the net. It addresses the synchronization of data sampling, data to phasor conversions, formats for timing input, and phasor data output from a PMU. So typically 10 to 12 phasors are to be measured at substation. So in this slide, it is shown that how the data is captured at every substation. 10 to 12 phasors means line currents, bus voltage, frequency, rate of change of frequency, and so on. Sampling clocks are synchronized across the system. All PMU clocks, there will be internal clock within the PMU, and that clocks are used for sampling the analog sinusoidal waveforms of currents and voltage and so on. So these clocks are synchronized with the help of synchronizing time pulses, which is given by GPS. At every new second, they are resynchronized, all clocks of all PMU. Phasors are computed using recursive DFT algorithm. Deviation in frequency can be handled because for a large system, frequency at different location may be slightly different, right? So for the calculation of phasors, it is possible. Error in phasor calculation is inversely proportional to data window length. We will see later what is data window length. Phasor is applied every new sample. Phasor representation of AC quantities. Earlier, the AC circuits were analyzed by differential equations, but then this was the concept given by Proteus Steinmetz in 1893. He gave the concept of phasors. Theoretically, we can use phasors only in steady state. So if the sinusoidal quantity, frequency and magnitude is not varying, so that is the called as quasi steady state. So in this condition only we can use the phasors. But then nowadays power system employs the phasors even when the magnitudes are varying, frequency is varying. The recently evolved into real-time phasor measurement synchronized to absolute time reference. How to compute phasors? Filtered signals are fed to PMU. Positive sequence component of phasor is calculated. Small offset is always there, but then recursive DFT algorithm is used, which is more efficient and lesser computation burden. This is the formula, which is nothing but the recursive DFT algorithm. So this is the window, right? As the time increases, the window moves to the right. So I would say that 3, 3, 6, around 12 samples are used in the calculation of the phasor. So this one particular snapshot, the 12 samples are used to calculate the phasor of this moving window. Then when the next sample arrives, the last sample will go out, new sample will be accounted, and then again using those samples, again phasor will be calculated, which means at arrival of the every new sample, phasor is calculated. There is a convention for phase angle as per the standard is shown here. If the sample number 0 is at the start of the positive cycle, then angle of that voltage phasor, I say there are 12 samples. So sample number 0 to sample number 11. So that calculates the phasor, right? In that case, if sample number 0 is at the start of the positive cycle of voltage, then that calculation of the phasor will be assigned the angle of -90. And similarly here the adjacent figure also it is shown. If that sample number 0 is at the first sample in the moving window is at the peak of the positive half cycle, then that phasor calculation will be given assigned angle of 0. So that is the convention which is to be followed by all PMU manufacturers. Required precision of synchronization. 1/10 of a degree at the power system frequency is sufficient for this application: state estimation, stability monitoring, control, and emergency control. Right. So the required precision is about 1/10 of a degree. So in a one complete cycle there are 360 degree, right? And 1/10 of degree, that much precision is required. So that comes about 5 microsecond for 50 Hz system, and the precision of the synchronization given by GPS is 1 microsecond, which means that for all practical purposes the required precision is met, right, if you employ PMU and VAMs. These are the communication options: telephone line, PLCC, microwave link, satellites, fiber optic cables. Internet is also there. This is the real difference between this figure shows the real difference between the SCADA and synchro phasors using PMUs. So same disturbance, you can see how SCADA is giving us the results in simulation and how synchro phasors are giving. We can very easily see that the synchro phasors gives us very accurate simulation, and it can give you the good results. Okay, so SCADA may mislead us for taking some important decisions, whereas synchrophasers are giving so good result that we can have confidence in the results given by synchrophasers. AMI. The development of AMI is the milestone in the evolution of smart grid. Very, very important. See, as far as distribution sector is concerned, it covers more number of components, transformers, feeders, and so on. Consumers also are many. So the penetration of smart grid using the smart devices, smart metering, and so on, in terms of number and money, if we say, then that is more in the case of the distribution network, right? So the advanced metering infrastructure is very, very important, and that is considered to be as a milestone in the evolution of smart grid. So the application of smart grid is more relevant to the distribution network. I'm not saying that it is not important for the transmission network. It is also very important, but then the size is very, very high in case of DM. It provides a near real-time pricing of energy to customers. It helps the utilities achieve necessary load reductions. It is defined as integration of many technologies that provides an intelligent connection between consumers and system operators. The another alternative definition of AMI is a measurement and collection system that includes smart meters, communication networks, and data management systems that make the information available to the service provider. It facilitates the supply to consumers with the necessary information to make intelligent decisions. The ability of AMI to execute those decisions and a variety of choices leading to substantial benefits. AMI enables system operators to greatly improve consumer service by refining utility operating and asset management processes based on the data provided by AMI. The main components of AMIs are smart meters, communication network, data reception management system. The conceptual system block diagram of AMI is like this. The smart meters at the consumer data collection is done by the smart meters, communicated to data communication network, and then given to the meter data management system. The second component of AMI is smart meters. They are typically digital programmable devices. They record customer consumption of electrical energy in intervals of an hour or less. So this is very important. We can realize here that huge data will be gathered as a result of this. It also communicates this information daily or more frequently back to the energy supplier for monitoring and billing purposes. Other functions of smart meters, you can see very important this list of these functions. Time-based pricing. Presently, the time-based pricing is not there in our system. The net metering, loss of power and restoration notification. Presently, our DISCOMs have started to send SMS that so and so day power will not be available. But then, with the help of smart meters, more information can be given to the consumers about the loss of power as well as restoration. The remote on and turn off operations is possible with the smart meters. So you can remotely smart meters. You can, for example, a consumer can start AC before he or she arrives at the home and so on. The load limiting for bad pay or demand response purposes. So if the price is very high, right, then load can be limited. So smart meters can give you the pricing idea in near real time, and customer can take a decision for the limiting of load and so on. Energy prepayment, power quality monitoring, temper and energy theft detection, communications with other devices in the home. So these are the possible functions. Security challenges to the smart grid. Traditionally, it means that system withstand unexpected disturbances such as short circuit, loss of power system components such as transmission line and so on. So if there is a loss of one line, so the supply to the consumer should not be affected. So in that case, I would say that system is secure, something like that. In today's world, security focus has expanded to include the disturbance due to overloading or unexpected causes, physical attacks or cyber attacks. So these more aspects of security are added in the present day world. Security of power grid or smart grid covers operational security, physical security and cyber security. So operational security means robustness of system to disturbances. It depends on system operating condition. If the system is operating during the peak hours, then the system is likely to be less secure than it is there in the off-peak hours. Or if few components are already not in the service, then system is supposed to be called as lesser secure system. It depends on contingent availability of disturbances. So how to ensure operational security? Real-time monitoring of transmission line flows, that they are not overloaded. Contingency analysis is to be done. What if something happens to the grid situation, right? And then we should ensure that system is secure. So that is nothing but the contingency analysis. Corrective and preventive action, so that if contingency occur, do not create a system breakdown. The contingency analysis is repeated periodically. The load and generation balance, frequency stability is to be required to be kept within the permissible band of 49.7 to 50.2 hertz, that is 0.5 hertz. Inter-regional transfers monitoring status of all. Any malfunction of the operator is altered through alarms. With the help of synchro phasers, we can address this, like grid stress. So phasor angular separation, if it is more, then we can say that the grid is in stress condition. Damping status and trend, in which status system is moving, right? In which state system is moving. So if the damping is better, then we can say that for some oscillations, for some known oscillations, then we can say that grid is more robust, right? Something like that. Sustained low frequency oscillation between the inter-area oscillations and so on. So with the help of synchro phasers, it is possible to know about the oscillations. We can also find out the low voltage zones or voltage sensitivities in some pockets with the help of synchro phasers measurements. Power angle sensitivity and stability can be sensed using the synchro phasers, which is nothing but the angular stability of the system, right? With the help of these VAMs, we can really assess that how far the system is from the threshold value of some disturbance, some instability, and so on. In today's grid, it relies increasingly on digital electronic devices and communications, right? So more automation and two-way communication means increased cyber attack vector, increased attack surface. See, the communication systems are required to be employed more and more, right? So that opens the gates for the cyber attack, right? The more probability of cyber attack, right? So cyber security remains a constant challenge in the if we go on increasing the smart grid components, employment of smart grid components in the system. What are the possible risks? If you don't care about the such kind of security aspects, then what is at risk? The relay configuration can be changed by someone. Control system settings, like for example PSS setting, right, or fax device setting, so that can be changed. Limiting value of some, let's say, reactive power output or generator or a line or a transformer, they can be changed. erasing complete data from SCADA servers, freezing values of critical line loadings, denial of service communication to control room. So this kind of possible things can occur, right? The electric grid is fundamentally designed with security by obscurity and isolation protocols without inbuilt security. Physical security was the paramount concern. Integration of electric and information networks increased attack vector. Okay. Power grid is the critical infrastructure of the nation, right? It is widespread. Now, because it is widespread, it is impossible to guard each and every point, node, line, transformer, and so on, right? So we require synchronized coordinated operation. Damage to any one part may cause cascade damage. For example, if some uncivilized person throws a conductor across the three line conductor of 400 kV line, you might have seen that it is in the horizontal configuration. So it can cause cascade damage, right? Or a transformer which is not monitored, or there is no presence of any person, it can create such kind of damage. Control centers are strategic location of India. Like for example, there is a dam or some important bridge or some important road. For example, the road which is leading towards the Kashmir and so on. So similarly, control centers are strategic locations. Any risk to the control centers may endanger the whole infrastructure, load dispatch center and so on. Any unintentional maloperation may render infrastructure in a stage of grave danger. Thanks. Any questions? I hope I am on time.
Yes, sir. Participants can unmute to ask the questions. Please otherwise post in a chat box. Sir, I think there are no questions.
Okay.
Okay, so on behalf of Electrical Department DGGC Surat, I would like to thank Dr. S.R. Joshi sir for delivering such an excellent session. Despite having very busy schedule, he took out some time to be an expert in this FDP. I must say that he has covered wide range of topics from motivation and evaluation of the grids, smart grid, to its different components, security and risk issues, to the present scenario of smart grid in India in a simple and lucid manner. He also gives useful insights as how to view smart grid in different approaches, which I'm sure will be useful for researchers working in this area. I just want to mention one thing, that I had worked under him when he was head of the department as well as when he was principal of our institute. But we never had a chance to hear him as an expert. But in this platform, I am thankful that he has accepted our invitation and we can get to hear him in this FDP. So thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invitation and be a part of this FDP. And we hope your support in the future also, sir.
Yes, madam, it will be always there. But actually, I am having privilege that you have invited me to deliver a talk in this kind of FDP. So I am thankful that you gave me invitation.
Although, sir, it was not your topic, but you have delivered in such a simple and lucid manner that we get to understand all the scenarios of the smart grid, sir.
Madam, honestly speaking, I had spent many hours to read different resources, books,
Yes, sir, it
presentations.
shows in your references, sir.
Yes. Anyway, I have to try my level best because I have affection for Surat. So I accepted it and I tried my level best so that I can deliver which is useful to the participants.
Right, sir.
Maybe around, if any other college would have invited, I would have say plainly no. But then if there is a question of GC Surat, I am always there.
So we are lucky in that sense, sir.
Yes, yes, ma'am. So thanks to all participants to listen me with patience. Really thankful, and I hope that something will ignite from the what content I have delivered. Right. Thanks a lot to all the department, Urvi madam, Nimita madam,